We finally get to ride the Indian Scout, which should be really cool. So here's our ignition on. Pretty neat. We're already in neutral. Give this thing a quick start up. Fairly mellow. But this is the 6-speed version of it, which is really cool. I've been tossed back and forth with getting my hands on a bobber the last couple of years. I've already ridden the Harley Sportster 1200, which was pretty badass. I got to ride the Harley Street Bob, which I truly enjoyed. And then I got my hands on a Vulcan S, which happened to be, in my opinion, one of the coolest cruisers I could ride. And I've always wanted to try one of these because I think the power delivery that comes from the Vulcan and this bobber are going to be way more entertaining, in my opinion. Let's have some fun. Look at those mirrors though. Those mirrors are sick. Look at, you can actually see really well out of these. Ergonomics, holy crap. My feet are a little bit higher than I expected, which is kind of cool because that means we're probably not going to run into the issue of scraping these things because they are way up there. We could probably really get after this thing. Position wise, obviously my feet are about where my hands are at, so I'm like super like tacoed in this thing right now. Not to say that it's uncomfortable at all. It's actually quite comfortable, this position. I think the handlebars being low like this are really neat. I did enjoy the like higher up version on the 1200 Sportster. I thought that was pretty nice, but this is probably a little more comfortable. It is still just under my knee, my arms, and I think that's just simply because we're sitting deeper inside the seat than I would on that Sportster. But this seat position is very, very comfortable. I like it. I could definitely have a really good time. But I'll put the specs up here of this thing. It is pretty beefy for what it is. Yeah, don't take much throttle pull to get her moving. She's gonna be pretty torquey, no doubt about that. But I don't know what you guys think. The styling of this thing, this looks legit. Now, the last time I got my hands on one of the earlier models, I think when the Scout Bobber first came out was when I was looking at them, I just noticed so much plastic on them from like just trying too hard kind of thing. And that was really, I think, kind of about when Polaris took over Indian. So it kind of like made me think a little bit less about the motorcycle, but there's nothing wrong with it. Actually, a pretty decent sound for a stock muffler too. I mean, nobody's really gonna be hearing you, but you riding it, it sounds pretty badass. Leans over pretty damn well. Legs are definitely wide as they can get. Yeah, there's good pull there. Now the seat though, I mean, that's just like a little nubbin back there, like barely holding your butt on. It like barely rolls above my tailbone. Any more throttle than that, I probably would have kind of slid back a little bit. So that would be something to pay attention to, is maybe you need a new seat. But I also think, I know it's kind of the whole point of a bobber, right, to have minimalistic stuff, but I think that little tiny little butt rubber for a passenger with a little bit higher seat for the main rider would probably be pretty cool. I'll put a picture up here of what I'm talking about. This was on the Harley Davidson 1200 Sportster that my buddy had that I got to ride. If you want to check out that video, I'll put it up here. That was pretty fun, but I think that seat was legit, and I think it would be pretty badass on this bike, especially if it has a little more lip to keep you, you know, maybe kind of on the bike. Yeah, there's good freaking grunt there. Harleys, I always felt they had to be in a very specific RPM to run. Right now, I'm only in 4th gear. I'm in 5th gear now. I mean, absolutely no reason to be in 6th gear, but I don't feel it lugging either. So I could potentially ride this at slower speeds and not feel like the bike's gonna friggin' die on me, which was very annoying to me on the Harley. So that's what I kind of mean about when it comes to the different types of engines that come in with these bikes, like Harley versus like the Vulcan and this Indian here. The power is just a little bit different. It's a little less luggy. There's a reason why Harleys have that iconic sound and rattle. This does not have very much vibration. It is definitely a little bit vibey. I'm not going to say it's bad, but it's not noticeable like a Harley at all. but it does give you that little tiny bit of it if that's what you're looking for in a nice bike that's got that little tiny grumble to it. I think it has just enough for that. So as for wind protection, obviously we have absolutely none, and I have yet to get above 60 miles an hour to say that it's going to be terrible. I don't think I need to do that to not be able to tell you it's not going to be very good. This is definitely more of a backroads cruiser to and from work, very short distance on the freeway. I would say maybe 10 miles of 70-80 miles an hour, and then you'd start getting a little annoyed. But that's, you know, just personal preference. I do have a full face helmet, so it makes it a little bit better. But a little visor would be pretty nice on this thing. Probably solve that problem pretty easily. I don't know, man. We might have to get on the 5-speed one to see if I really don't like it. But it is kind of hard too. Like, I don't feel like I'm shifting through gears like crazy, which is cool. Like, I feel like I am good at this RPM range in 4th gear, only going like 55 miles an hour. You'd be curious to see what you'd have to do with the 5-speed version, but I know that that's always been something I've disliked, is any bike less than 6 gears. It is definitely a better feeling having that 6th gear for highway cruising, less vibey, better fuel economy, obviously personal preferences. Oh, downshifting into 1st gear, didn't need that. Ooh, see, look at those pegs are still, I got quite a bit of room. Oh yeah, she freaking goes, guys. Yep, there's plenty of power there, plenty, and I'm not even cranking that throttle. I didn't even really get into it. So yeah, you're not going to be bored. I am not going to say this is a beginner bike at all. There's way too much power, and this position is way too weird for something that you may not be used to. Yeah, see, I want to like fly off this bike giving her gas. Yeah, definitely got to fix that seat for sure. There's a lot of power to chuck your ass right off the back of this thing. Yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know how you would ride this really hard, really fast, guys. I'm gonna fly off the back of it. Oh, there we go. We got some speed. The buffeting's not that bad. It really isn't. The wind isn't hitting me that hard. But it isn't a really windy day either. So, I mean, with the full face, with how low you are into the bike, I mean, it's not that bad. It really isn't that bad. I could see a small little tiny visor on this thing and you'd be gold. And then you don't have to put all that garbage all over your bike if you don't want to. I mean, that's the point of buying a bobber, is you want a sleek, nothing on it. You don't want the big old bags in the back of the massive freaking windscreen and that big massive front fairing. Like, that's not the point, in my opinion, of a motorcycle like this. You want this nice, cool looking, naked styled bike. Love it. But with the legs out there, yeah, she would get a little chilly, no doubt. We're gonna try and stop here and get a couple of photos for you guys, because she is a pretty looking bike, no doubt about that. I like the kickstand. That's a good solid feel. Some of them feel like they don't really go into place. That one feels very good. But another weird thing for me is, obviously coming from sport bikes, you put the kickstand down and you're in gear, the bike shuts off. I love that feature personally, but a lot of cruisers don't do that. She is a beautiful bike, belt driven, very stylish. I like it. Definitely loving this dashboard. But if you're into a cruiser style bike, this is a pretty dang good choice. If I'm going to compare it to something, obviously I've already kind of compared it a little bit to the Harleys, the few Harleys I've rode, and the Vulcan. I will be honest and say that that Vulcan was probably the most fun, agile, most power usable enjoyment, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And this is coming right there behind it. The difference, I would say, really, at least on this one, is it has quite a bit more freaking grunt than the Vulcan does, which is fair. This is pretty good size motor in this thing. Obviously the Vulcan is quite a bit less expensive than this thing, but I don't think you would go wrong with either bike at this point. Like, do you want more power? Then maybe this one. This one is more looks, in my opinion, a little more nostalgia like a Harley than maybe the Vulcan has. This is kind of a neat experience without some of the frustrations that come along with a Harley. And if you're trying to save a little bit of money, maybe the 5-geared version of the Bobber is a little more realistic for you. If you're looking to stay within that price point, but yet you absolutely love the, you know, styling of this Indian, because this Street Bobber looks sexy in my opinion. This is a bike I would want to have as my cruiser, because right now I have sport bikes, I have a comfy commuter. I would love to have a cruiser as well, and this is now officially in that category for me. I think I would probably buy this over the Vulcan. Not to say that I don't think the Vulcan is a better motorcycle than this, just simply because the styling and the power of it, I think I would lean this direction. This is a ton of fun. That is a lot of pull right there in 4th gear, right there to 60. I was literally quarter throttle and this thing's picking up very solid. Freeway wise, if you can handle the freeway in the wind, yes, this thing would be freaking bad, freaking ass. But yeah, I would be all over a windscreen on this thing. And yeah, see, and oh, there we go, I just touched the peg. So yeah, so that would be another part of the Vulcan that I would like a little bit better, is the fact that I feel like I could get way more aggressive on that bike on some back roads than this. But you know, not I would say most people aren't buying bikes to go drag some pegs. That's not the idea. The idea is this is a neat, nostalgic styled motorcycle that's really freaking cool. I am all over the place. Sorry guys. I can't even make up my own mind. I'm right between the two bikes. Love the nostalgia. Love the design of this bike. It actually feels like a cruiser. The Kelly kind of feels more like a sport bike trying to be a cruiser, but it sure as hell did it well. I'm not gonna argue. I don't think you could go wrong with either bike. That's if you're comparing the two. But thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you got something out of this. I know I had a good time. I always have a good time. I'm on 2 wheels, right? And I'm at Moto America Laguna Seca watching the races. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace. Ton of fun.